Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Yuki. I'm a product manager on Instagram, and I'm super excited to share with you today some insights about a relatively new product that we have on Instagram, which is called Instagram Stories, in the hopes that I can share some insights with you that will help your businesses and all the businesses you work with really fully leverage this new medium to deepen your relationships with your customers. And I'll start with a little intro about myself by way of my Instagram profile. So these are some of the things I like to post to my Instagram. I like to share activities that I'm interested in, places I like to travel, and the people that are important to me. And before I dive into some of the stories content, I'd love to do a little exercise with each of you, a little mid-afternoon exercise. So I'd love for you to all think about, hopefully you all use Instagram. I'd love for you all to think about what are the types of things that you like to post to your Instagram. And then I'd also like you, particularly those of you who joined Instagram in the early days, to think about what types of things you first posted to Instagram and how those might differ from what you post today. And then even further, for those of you who are already using Instagram Stories, thank you, I'd like for you to also think about what you're posting to Instagram Stories and how that even differs from what you post to your feed and how that's changed the content that you're bringing to Instagram on a daily basis. And in those answers to those questions, for most of you, really lies the heart of why we were so excited to bring Instagram Stories to our product. For most of us, what we used to post when we first joined Instagram, we didn't really think about it as much as we do today. In fact, fun story, the very first post ever made to Instagram was by one of our co-founders, Kevin Systrom, and it was a picture of his foot. It was his foot next to a dog. It was pretty blurry, probably a little different from what you or I see on Instagram today in our feeds. And so what this kind of signifies is over time, there was kind of this bar and this pressure that kept increasing on our platform and our feed. And it got to the point where we realized people were sharing a lot of highlights on Instagram, which is great. Highlights are awesome. I care about all the highlights of the people I care about. But there's so many moments that are happening in our lives in between in the everyday that people weren't able to share. And so that's really what Stories is about. It turned out when we got our heads together as product thinkers to figure out how can we address this need, the best format was Stories. And there's a couple reasons. First, it's super mobile optimized, right? It's a 9:16 vertical full screen medium. So it's taking full advantage of the mobile real estate. But it's also ephemeral, which really helps kind of lower this bar and this pressure about what you want to share or what you can share here. And so that's really what Stories has become for us. It's a place where all of our community comes to share the everyday that's happening in between these highlights that they are now posting to feed. And the proof is in the numbers, really. It turns out we were spot on this intuition that there was this really latent need from our community. They all wanted to share all these everyday moments with the people that they were already connected to on Instagram. And so already in less than a year after we launched, so we launched last August, we already have over 250 million daily actives, people coming every day to use Stories, which is pretty spectacular. And it is really a space in Instagram and kind of on the phone, on the mobile world, that's not quite like any other part of our app. It's majority video, majority sound on. And again, this full screen, immersive, and ephemeral space has different kind of laws of physics to it that change kind of the creativity of what you can do here. And we've loved continuing to put our own spin on this format. So you, hopefully, if you're Instagram users, have been playing around with a lot of the different creative tools that we keep rolling out. I've just selected a couple here of my favorites, but these are some of many. So if you've used Boomerang, you've seen you can kind of post these videos that sort of animate back and forth on a loop, a specific part of a video to create a fun effect. We also launch stickers regularly. So there's some permanent ones like time, weather, location that can help just add some context about these everyday moments that you're sharing. But we also do seasonal and kind of special occasion ones. So in this image, what you're seeing is a pack that we released last month for Pride Month. Face filters, hopefully no one here is a stranger to those, but those also add some fun flair to the everyday moments that you want to share with the people you care about. And hashtag story is one of my favorites. It's kind of this cool feature where you can make a sticker to put on your story where the viewer can actually tap that hashtag, and that will take them to the hashtag page within Instagram if they want to explore the interest or the topic that you are posting about. So lots of fun kind of Instagram-y spins on this format that we're excited about. But it's not just our community that's really embraced this, and this kind of gets to the heart of maybe more relevant to your businesses. Businesses are embracing it too. And this doesn't come as a surprise to us at Instagram by any means. Instagram's always been a place that feels really native for businesses. And a lot of that is because Instagram is just very visual by nature. Our community is one that comes kind of with a very open mind, looking to be visually inspired around all their different interests. And a lot of time, it's businesses that are providing that inspiration. And so the evidence of that is that already over 80% of accounts on Instagram, 80%, I love this stat, already proactively choose to follow a business on Instagram, which is so cool. Like, where else in the world do you see that? And it's just, this is already a space that's really special for people to engage with businesses. And so what you're seeing in stories today, and that's the kind of second stat that's up there, is that this behavior is just extending into stories. So today, a third of the most viewed stories are actually stories that are being posted by businesses organically, which is pretty cool. And it doesn't stop there. So the last stat on this slide about the interactions, 120 million in the last month happening between people and business accounts through stories, is really cool because it's showing that not only are businesses engaging with consumers here, but consumers are also reaching out to further that relationship and learn more. So we're super excited about what we're seeing here. And what I wanted to do for you guys today is share some fun examples that we've kind of found of what businesses are already doing to get creative here to help give you some ideas of how you can get started. So this is one by Bacardi. And what I love about this one is it really leverages a really native interaction element to this space. So for those of you who haven't played with stories, if you tap the right edge of the screen, it'll advance you forward to the next card. And if you tap the left edge, it'll take you back to the previous card. So what they did here is they basically recorded some DJ scratches, and each card was a different one. And the consumer within the story can basically use their thumbs to kind of remix their own DJ set. So a really fun way, kind of playful, interactive, also leveraging the fact that music is a top interest that people follow on Instagram. So really cool and kind of fun creativity here. But that's just one example. There's also a huge breadth of other things that we're seeing businesses play around with here. And I'll share some more examples across 5 themes that we kind of sussed out after looking at a lot of activity that businesses are doing on our platform. And I'll go through kind of one by one and give you some visuals to go with them. So the first one is playing with time. Again, this is an ephemeral space. So things like limited time sales, time-sensitive information, this feels really at home here, given the 24-hour expiration. Also promotion. So one thing that's really interesting about the Instagram Stories format is that it has this kind of multi-part linear progression, naturally. And so things like explaining how to participate in a promotion lend themselves really nicely to this format and feel really good for the consumer too. By similar logic, tutorials. I love these. So like the DIYs, the how-tos, it's really natural to make each card in the story a step in your tutorial, and this is something we're seeing being really effective and engaging on the platform. Another thing around discovery, so discovery is something that consumers are always looking for with their favorite businesses on Instagram, and Stories is particularly a really kind of fun way to tease content. And so, kind of to the previous stat of people, 120 million in the past month engaging and sending messages to businesses, what we're finding with teasers is that, particularly for the devoted followings that are, kind of following business accounts on Instagram, they get excited about new content or a new line of shoes or whatever it is, kind of being teased on the Stories platform and swiping up to learn more about how they can go buy or how they can just see more content. And lastly, this is one of my personal favorites. Again, when we talked about kind of how Stories is now about the everyday, one of the things that's awesome that comes with that is that it brings this level of rawness and authenticity to this special space. And so what that lends itself really nicely to is behind-the-scenes looks for businesses. And so that sort of behind-the-scenes exclusive, can only see it here type content, that tends to do really, really well in Stories on Instagram because it just fits really natively within all the other content that's being shared into the same place. But all this said, though this is a new medium, all the fundamentals that you all know very well as marketers still completely apply here. It's just being able to take your message and stay true to your brand voice, but figure out how it applies to this new space that's going to be the special magic. So remembering that it's a mobile-first environment is obviously really important, not only for your message and your creative, but also for your destination, for your call to action. And what we see is that brands that are really embracing that and embracing kind of the context behind why people are here are the ones that are being really effective in the way that they're pushing content here. And it's not just about your organic following. So to the panel, I think 2 panels ago, talking about how organic and paid works well together, absolutely true in stories too. In January of this year, we announced ads in stories, which is now fully launched. And if you were to take away one thing about ads, especially you as expert marketers in this room, the coolest thing I think about the Stories ad platform is that we've taken this new format, but we've married it with all the horsepower of the traditional Facebook ads platform. So as you guys hopefully know, we're owned by Facebook, and our traditional ads product is already integrated. Stories is no different. So all the things that you are used to utilizing, things like custom audiences, advanced targeting, all of our measurement capabilities, any of the full funnel of optimization goals, all that is still possible. It's just married with this new format, which we think is pretty exciting and a great place to experiment. And with that, I also want to give you some examples of creative in this space. So we're seeing, again, same as organic, just a wide variety of approaches here, many of which are working. So this Ben & Jerry's one is kind of a fun one where there's really this sort of natively created creative that really works for a 9x16 placement. This one from Buick I love to show because they really kind of intertwined a lot of the native creative elements we were talking about earlier. So things like hashtags and boomerang and stickers to make it really fit in with the context in which it's being placed. And I also don't want you to take away that you necessarily have to create bespoke creative here or do anything really high production. I love this one. This is a cool story where Jessica Alba, in her trailer, in between takes on a set, just shot, like with her own iPhone, a couple spots with Honest Company products, and voila, you have something that just really feels like it fits into the space. So it doesn't necessarily have to be high production. In fact, the fact that this is an everyday type of sharing medium means that the raw and the authentic can sometimes actually fit in better. And even further than that, you don't necessarily even need to be shooting new spots here. So this is a really cool example from Michael Kors, where they had shot a 30 or 60-second spot for Facebook. And what they did is they just took it, they spliced it, and they kind of remixed it. And I think this one looks almost as if it was shot for 9x16. So there's really exciting and creative things you can do, even with the assets that your business or your business clients already have today, if you just get a little creative. So that was a lot of examples to share, and a lot of it was to just kind of inspire you to get started and kind of think about how this space can apply for your business. But if I were to leave you with anything, I would just say, remember that this new medium has a couple characteristics to it that you should keep in mind as you're figuring out how your own brand voice fits here. So first, of course, it's mobile. I know we've been talking about that all day long. You guys are probably sick of hearing that word, but it is. Particularly the 9x16 vertical asset space, and being able to leverage an entire screen, that's pretty special about this space. And that authenticity really gets rewarded here. It's what everyday people, you and I and the community are sharing here, and so when brands do it too, it feels more authentic, and it's a good way for people and businesses to more deeply engage. And with those, I would just really encourage you to think differently when you experiment. I would almost challenge you to rethink the way your traditional workflows might go, especially for things like creative development. This is truly kind of a new space, and there are probably creative ways, and hopefully some of the examples inspired you a bit. But there's probably creative new ways to tackle this problem, and we're so excited to see what all of you, and we continue to be inspired by what all of the businesses we just showed continue to do on this placement. And with that, thanks so much, and I hope to see you all on Instagram.